What's up, everyone? Jason Gilbo here with Chris Etherington, taking a look at the Masters big tournament on DraftKings. We get the big Millie Maker this week, and so we'll be breaking down some ownership GPP plays, but also going with some guys that we like. You got a core up on our site, dailyfantasycafe.com, with your guys. And you look at last week. You had a nice solid week. I think RCB was the only one that was kind of the down one.
Yeah, with Bale missing the cut. He kind of just screwed most of my lineups with that, but I was very pleased with the other three guys finishing inside the top 15 for the week, with Henley eventually becoming the winner. He just had a really awesome final round. So hopefully we'll keep the ball rolling and maybe have all the four guys make the cut and maybe finish high on top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, we'll dive into the list here. Looking up top, a couple of guys that are in the 10K range, 11K range. You got Spieth, Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy 10-6, Jason Day 10-2. Spieth, your most expensive, obviously. We can talk about him first. Obviously a stellar start to his career at the Masters. Has a win here and then 2 second-place finishes. Obviously, of course, it just kind of he just actually completely gets, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of strange with him being the shorter hitter of the top guys, but he seems to have found something at this course. I don't know exactly what his ownership is going to be. Obviously, no one does, but if I were to guess, I think he would be the cheapest or the lowest owned of the top three guys. DJ right in the middle there. He might be 40%, but if you go back to Mexico, everyone thought he was going to be 40% plus, but then at the start of Thursday, he was at basically around 30% across the board. So I really don't know what to make of these three guys. For me personally, I'm just going to play all three, and that way, if one of them wins, then I'm going to have at least a little bit of the pie, and hopefully have a good chance of having a nice payday.
Yeah, I'm looking to pretty much split my shares with these three. There's really isn't anything that stands out to where you maybe look to fade one over the other. I think all three are really in play equally for me. I might lean a little bit more towards McIlroy, just exposure-wise, just because he is a little bit cheaper. But all three of these guys, are looking at pretty good Vegas odds to win this thing. And kind of with the value that's out there, you can definitely fit these guys in and run a pretty balanced lineup outside of that.
Yeah, you could definitely start your lineups with, let's say, DJ and McIlroy. Start your lineup there, and then you can probably – there's a few guys under 7K where you can easily play. And then you can maybe pick one guy in the 9,000 and just have a nice stars and scrubs for the week. I really think it's going to be one of these three guys that could win for this week. Everyone is saying that McIlroy is going to win, and I think he has a really good chance this week.
Yeah, I do too. I like McIlroy quite a bit. Moving down the list, Jason Day, Hideki Matsuyama, Henrik Stenson. We can toss in Ricky Fowler as kind of the next line there. Fowler coming in here, really nice form. Has been pretty solid on par fives this year, which I'm looking at quite a bit this week. Matsuyama is a guy who's always interesting, but definitely just a tournament guy.
Yeah, you can really go off the board with Jason Day and Matsuyama. They both have good history here. It does sound like that Jason Day is playing this week. His mother had surgery for her cancer, and it sounds like that she pulled through and she's doing very well. So Day is in good spirits as of right now. But I think because of that, people are going to be scared. And if you want to take the ownership angle, you can easily start your lineups with Day and also Matsuyama.
Yeah, I think, even with Dave, I mean, kind of playing poorly for his price tag over some of the season, kind of ties into that as well. On the Fowler and Stenson side of things, I mean, Stenson's basically, burned people the last 2 weeks. Had a seventh finish at Valspar, but looking deeper into it, I mean, he still didn't play that great.
Yeah, at Valspar, he was. I think his putter saved him for the most part at Valspar, and he's not known to be a good putter. He's known for his irons. He's just with a withdrawal back in Mexico and with a miscut as well. I think people are still going to play him because of his good history recently. But I think for the most part, people are just done playing him with a couple, like I said, with a couple miscuts and a withdrawal in there. I think people are just done with him.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think with Fowler being 200 less, which, who has been solid over the last few tournaments, he's definitely going to suck away some ownership. I like Fowler this week. I mean, you were talking about being a fade just because you think the ownership's going to come in high, which I'm fine with just because, there's still plenty of options that we'll get to.
Yeah, for me personally, I think Fowler's going to be one of those guys where I'm just going to fade for the week. Not to say that he may play well. I just think that his ownership is going to be probably around 30% or higher. He'll definitely be in the top 5 in ownership this week. He has really good course history. He did miss the cut last year, but last year was really tough with the winds picking up on Thursday and Friday. A lot of chalk plays last year missed the cut. And for this season, Fowler has a win at the Honda. And then with his play last weekend, people are going to see that. And with the recent buys, people are just going to almost all click him and just move down the list.
Yeah, he's just kind of in that price range where he's not too expensive. He's also not cheap enough for me to just kind of really click in automatically. The guy, I mean, I know that you like right below him, Justin Rose. Guy's in great form and at a pretty good price for his name.
Yeah, Rose has been really consistent this year, hitting basically just above average with his greens, and he's getting up and down about 55% of the time. So with that in mind and with his really good course history, he finished second in 2015 and finished 10th last year. So with that and also his recent form, he has 2 top 15s and a 4th place finish at the Genesis. So I think with him being right next to Fowler, he could be overlooked, especially with a couple of guys below him being a little bit cheaper and being a little more popular as well.
Yeah, I mean, the main name here, Jon Rahm, we were talking before, the ownership is going to be high on him because, one, Rahm, 8,600, but when you look at what we've been paying for him, throughout the most year, above 9K, it's 10.7 last week. I mean, this is basically a 9K player that we're getting a little bit at 8,600. No course history here, obviously. I mean, you were talking about that taking into effect somewhat, but there's a lot of guys here that we're going to talk about that don't have a course history.
Yeah, with no course history, it's a little difficult for me personally to pay up for a guy that hasn't played here before. Like if anyone could do it, it could be Rahm. He's just really on form right now, and it looks like there's no slowing down for him. Maybe that means he has reached his peak and maybe he's a little tired, but he's only 22. So maybe he's just running on his energy or something and he may still make the cut, but I don't know if he's going to finish inside the top 10 or not. Being that this is his first go around, it's going to be a little tough for him to do that. But I mean, like I said, if anyone can do it, it could be Rahm. I won't be surprised if he does. But with his popularity being where it is, it could be about 35% or more for the week.
Yeah, Rahm's one of those guys who's going to draw higher ownership. One, because he's just been his worst finish this year is 34th. I like him. I mean, probably a guy that I'm going to have a share to, but in terms of ownership, I mean, I definitely in agreement that if you're looking to be, I think you can fade Rahm. In this range in general, I mean, Mickelson, Bubba Watson, I think are going to carry some higher ownership. I mean, I'm kind of trying to get a read on the ownership of Sergio Garcia, but I think he's going to come in low round out of basically those four names.
Yeah, I think so too. I think where Garcia is priced where he is, he's either going to reach 20% or he might be low as around 10 or 12%. Being that Bubba Watson and Mickelson are right there, and then like we said earlier, Rahm as well. Garcia could be overlooked, and with only one missed cut, going way back to 2014, he has a couple top tens here as well. You kind of have to at least have a look at Garcia. Like, he's really consistent this year. He won in Dubai, I believe it was, earlier in the year. And then he hasn't missed a cut this season. So that, with being recently engaged and just being a little bit more happier in life, I guess, that he could play very well this week. He could easily get inside the top 10, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, he's been solid off the tee. It basically, I think, what's going to make or break him, not break him, but I think he's going to be a guy who makes a cut. But in terms of a really good finish and one that's kind of average is, if the putter gets going, that's what he basically needs to really jump up into a top 10.
Yeah, he's basically a streaker type of putter. It's either very hot or it's very cold for him. But if he can hit it close, like within that 10 to 15 foot range, he has a really good chance, I think, of contending and possibly win the whole thing and win his first major in his career. So he's definitely going to be one of those guys that I'm going to have in my player pool.
Yeah, I am too. A guy that I like here, Louis. I mean, I'm big fan of him in tournaments this week because I think he's going to draw lower ownership. Nothing really stands out about his game. I mean, he's just kind of all around a decent golfer at 8,100 too. I mean, because of the names that we just mentioned, because there are a lot of guys in the 7K range, I can see kind of people glossing over him a little bit.
Yeah, I really like Louis as well. He's hitting his greens pretty close to 70% of the time, and that's really good for the season. And he's scrambling very well too, getting up and down about 60% of the time. So this year he's playing very well. And then, just like Garcia, he has the one missed cut back in 2013. So he's going to be overlooked. He's not that popular to begin with. If I have to guess, probably same as Garcia, maybe around the 10 to 12% range for ownership, just because where the other guys are priced around him, they're going to be more popular than Louis. And I think with his 15th finish last year, he could be a really nice tournament play for the week.
As far as the guys around him, I mean, Snedeker, Schwartzel, Willett, Casey, Peters. I mean, you were talking about basically kind of fading this range in general and kind of scooting down a little bit.
Yeah, I think the only player for me in this upper 7 range that I may have a look at is Jimmy Walker at 76. He's consistent, about average with his irons. For this season, he has 2 missed cuts in his last 5 or 6 tournaments. He did finish 11th at the Genesis. If you look at his course history, I mean, he's played here 3 times, and he finished 8th in 2014. And being right next to a guy like Peters, Casey, Hatton, those guys are going to be more popular, I think, than Walker. And like I said, I think he's really the only guy that I kind of like in the upper 7.
Yeah, I mean, Hatton's probably the other name at 7.6 that I'll consider, just because he's been really solid this year. And his putting, I mean, one of the better putters on the tour. Probably a guy that I'll probably consider at the price because it is still cheaper. And I mean, the upside's been there this year too.
Yeah, he's been solid this year. The only downside I have on him is that he hasn't played this course before. Just kind of like Rahm, I think 7,600 is still a bit too high for me to play someone that's basically a rookie at Augusta. But if you look at his recent form, I mean, in his last 4 starts, it's been inside the top 10. So it is a really good tournament play, in my opinion. He is going to be popular. A lot of people are touting him this week that he could play well. But like I said, I think out of all these guys, I think Walker might be the only guy for me.
I think when we look at, I mean, a lot of people are making the comparison to Willett last year, who obviously won. I mean, mainly because of the country name, but overall, kind of a similar play style as well. And I think that's probably where a lot of the ownership is going to come because of the comparison talk.
Yeah, I think with Willett, he did play the year before last year. So that was one of the reasons why a lot of people liked him last year. Obviously, his odds were really good value on his odds last year. And with Spieth's meltdown on the 12th, he just sort of took advantage of that and just played well on the back 9. With Hatton, though, I think being a rookie, it's going to be a little difficult for him. Yeah, he could make the cut, but kind of like Rob, I'll be surprised if he finished inside the top 20 this week. It's going to be very difficult for him.
As far as like safety guys around there, I mean, Matt Kuchar, coming off a tough week, which a lot of people had a tough week. 7,400, been one of the more consistent guys this year, and also has a consistent history with Masters.
Yeah, with Kuchar, I don't know if I should really take last week into consideration, just because a lot of people missed the cut. A lot of big names missed the cut. But when you look at Kuchar, I mean, he's made every cut since 2010. He has a few top 10 finishes as well. And with his recent form being somewhat consistent, he has a couple missed cuts, but he's been finishing around like T20 basically for the season. So at 7,400, if you were to play like 50 plus lineups, then I would guess maybe I put him around 10 to 15% exposure. Like, he's a really good play, I think. But for me personally, he's going to be just another guy that I may have to fade for the week.
Yeah, I mean, a guy here as well. I mean, talking about course history, Lee Westwood, 7,200. Basically, if you're looking at course history, Westwood's going to be kind of a popular play.
Yeah, with Westwood being right there, he's at 72. Like you said, he's probably going to reach that 15% mark, maybe closer to 20. He finished second last year. He has a couple more top tens. But recently, like he was up there in Mexico, but then he just faltered off on Sunday. He just didn't make anything at all. And then he was one of the guys that missed the cut last week. So without last week, I mean, his season's really solid. Being at 7,200, I think that's a really good value on a guy that has a really good course history.
And I know Bill Haas and Weisberger, I mean, 7,200, 7,100 for Weisberger. Those were two guys that you were looking kind of come away from him.
Yeah, I think those two guys will be lesser owned than most of these guys around here. With Bill Haas, he's really consistent this season, hitting the greens about 70% of the time and getting up and down about 60% of the time. When you look at his course history, he hasn't missed a cut since 2010. And his best finish was in 2015. He finished 12th. So with that, and also with finishing inside the top 10 for the first time in a major last year, I believe it was the PGA that he did that. And with that momentum on his side, with his consistent play this season, I think he'll be a very nice contender for the week.
I mean, cheaper price tags on those guys, which kind of bumps up their play. That lower sevens, I mean, I'm really interested. I mean, Daniel Berger, always a GPP option that I consider. Just completely boom or bust. I mean, driving accuracy always scares me off of him some weeks, and of course this week. But this is a guy, I mean, who can do some damage, but also could miss a cut.
Yeah, he, like you said, he's just a pure boom or bust. With his history, you just don't know if he's going to make the cut or not. But he did play well on Sunday at the Houston. And then I believe he played here once last year. So, and I think he also finished 10th, I believe. At 7,300, I think, that's really good value and just a nice, again, just like Haas, he's going to be probably in that 12% ownership range, maybe a bit less. But if he finishes, say, inside the top 15, I mean, he's meaning value. So I think he's just a fine tournament play, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a guy I'm going to have some exposure to. Another guy I want to touch on, Brennan Steele, 7-7 cuts this year. One of the better greens and regulation players. His par 5 scoring I like a lot, and it's kind of something that I do look at the Masters. He kind of fits the bill. I mean, the only thing that's really missing is played here once, and it was a missed cut, but everything kind of lines up where he can have some success and at a cheaper price.
Yeah, he like you said, he played here once before. That was 2012. But if you just look at his season for this year, I mean, he hasn't missed a cut. He was really good at the beginning of the year. He played well at the Honda. Being where he's priced, being that this is his first time since 2012, it could be risky, but I think it could be a nice tournament play when you have Jason Duffner, you have Charlie Hoffman right next to him, and also JB Holmes. Those guys are going to be the most popular guys I feel in this range. So Steele is going to be a fine ownership play for tournaments for the week.
Yeah, I mean, as you talked about, guys like Holmes, Hoffman, Duffner. I mean, we're starting to get some names. I mean, down here that you can still even get to. We'll kind of skip over a little bit and talk about 2,6,900 guys. One that you like, Kevin Kistner, but Adam Hadwin's another guy. I mean, no course history, but we got a lot going for him.
Yeah, so this is when I start looking into the rookies a little bit. Being that they're less than 7K, all you need to do is basically make the cut, and they're just going to make their value just by doing that. So with Hadwin being at 69, he's one of the top players this season with stats. He's really close to 80% for scrambling. So he should be fine if he misses the greens here at Augusta. And with the win at the Feldspar, and he finished sixth at the Arnold Palmer, he's just really in good form right now. And I think with him being a really good putter and a good scrambler, I think he should be a fine play for the week. He should be one of those few rookies that might make the cut this week.
Yeah, Hadwin, I mean, as you said, been excellent. I mean, even if he gets into a little bit of trouble, I mean, getting out of it, I have confidence that he can do that. I mean, first in bogey avoidance this year, sixth in strokes gained putting. 6,900, I mean, you know, we got another cheap guy. Kistner's also a guy that you looked at and you listed as your core guy.
Yeah, I really like Kistner this week. He's been really consistent this year with his irons, hitting the greens about 63%. He's also getting up and down over 65% of the time. So he did play here once last year. He made the cut, finishing 37th. And if you look at his recent form this season, he finished second at the Arnold Palmer, and he actually played very well at the WGC in Mexico, finishing 11th. And he hasn't missed a cut this season. So with the stats and with his recent play and with his one appearance here last year, I think he's going to be very popular, but he's probably still going to be around 10%, maybe less. And I think, again, with his recent form, I think he's just going to be a fine play down here. He should easily make the cut.
Yeah, Kistner, I mean, he takes the cake. I mean, basically for me, anyone below 7K. You know, with Hadwin being right there, Kistner right there, I think the only other pivot that can probably make is maybe Molinari at 6,800. I don't think he's a bad option if you're looking for a lower owned play.
Yeah, Molinari was another guy that I was looking into a little bit. He's one of those consistent iron players this season. Pretty close to the 70% mark for the greens. He's played here 5 times. His last being at 2014. He missed a cut twice, but I think with his recent performance, he finished 7th at the Arnold Palmer. He finished 14th at the Honda. This guy should be probably, I would guess, around 5% in ownership, maybe a bit more. If he makes the cut and maybe finishes inside the top 25, let's say, then that's a really good value for him down here at 6,800.
Yeah, that's what you're looking at for guys like that, especially at that price tag. Anyone else you want to talk on? I mean, basically Molinari was like the last guy on the list I was looking at. I mean, we always get some kind of cheaper low six guys that pop up. Anyone you're taking a shot on?
For me personally, I may look into Tommy Fleetwood a little bit. He's been scrambling very well this season, getting up and down about 75% of the time. Again, he's going to be one of those rookies for this week at Augusta. But just like Hadwin, he has really good form coming in. He only has 2 missed cuts in his last 6, and he finished second at the WGC Mexico, and he finished 10th at the Arnold Palmer. So being down here at 6,900, I think him and Hadwin are fine tournament plays, and Kisner I think is a really good cash play for the week.
And as far as your call to win it all, I mean, is it DJ? I know you're a big DJ guy. Or is it McIlroy?
I want to say DJ, but I mean, with his recent play recently, I mean, it's kind of hard not to say, yeah, he's going to win again. But I think McIlroy is going to win it all. If he wins this week, then he completes his first career Grand Slam. So with a couple high finishes in previous appearances, I think McIlroy has a really good chance this week. He could win it all.
Yeah, top 10 last 3 years. He's coming close, and this certainly could be the year that he does it. I'm with you. I think McIlroy takes it down this year, and we finally get that Masters win for him. So.
Yeah, I think I think this is his time. He almost won like way back in like 2010 or 2011, but he had that big number on Saturday, I believe it was. But like I said, I think coming into this week, he has really good form. And yeah, I think this is his time to win.
Yeah, I'm with you. McIlroy 10-6 on DraftKings if you're looking to get him in this week. Definitely get some exposure. If you want to check out Chris's article and check out his core that hit well last week, you can go to dailyfantasycafe.com. It is up there on the site. And be sure to check out our optimizer as well. And good luck.